Hey, today we're gonna make a soap mold out of corrugated plastic. Something so cheap to buy. You can get it at any hardware store. This is simple to do. So simple. You're about to see. I am totally against wasting money when it comes to soap making if I don't have to. And for new soap makers, this is a money saver. Because I tell all my beginning soap makers, don't go right out and buy a ton of different molds before you know if you even enjoy soaping the way that you think you will when you watch it. Because we all know soaping can be a long process. So let's make a mold. Take us a few minutes. This is a super short video. Please like, subscribe. Get notified of little videos like this. I do DIY stuff all the time. If I can save you money, I'm going to pass that savings on to you with little tidbits of information. So please like, subscribe. Make sure you hit that bell for notifications so that when we post a new video, you always get notified. This is what you purchase. This is a piece of corrugated plastic. This one is actually made for a sign. I got it from Home Depot. This one, now this, as you can tell, was made from a bigger piece of corrugated plastic. This one cost me about $2. This one, because they only had the ones that were made for the sign, was about $1.50. Not expensive, very cheap. You can sometimes just find really large sheets of the corrugated plastic. Let me tell you, this is the cheapest mold that you can ever make, and it lasts over and over again. You can use it a dozen, I don't even know why I said a dozen. You can use it a lot. I have some molds that are so old, it's like, but this is great for makers in a pinch too. So when in a pinch, you need to make an extra mold, or you have a recipe that you know is going to have to sit in the mold for a while before you can unmold it, don't use your regular molds. Make one. So, simple. I am going to move the camera down and show you how easy this is to do. The only thing that you'll need, and I am going to use a black marker today so that you can actually see it on camera. But you need a marker, you need a X-Acto knife, and you need a ruler. Period. And we're done. Very simple and easy to do. The first thing I will say is that you need to decide what size you want your actual soap to be. This is going to determine what the size of your mold is. I am going to do a basic mold here. I'm going to do a 3-inch wall, 3-inch cavity for the soap, and we're going to call it a great size soap mold. It's a great size soap mold for any maker to use. But you can actually customize your soap to any size that you want it to be. If I wanted to make a wider bar, I can make the soap cavity wider. So we're going to see how it gets set up. This just takes a few minutes, so stick with me. You might learn something, a skill that everybody should have. $1.50 for this small one. Well, you get it in the sign aisle at Home Depot. Those, you could probably get it at one of the little stores. Everybody has these DIY signs that you can make for yard sales and things like that. So let's get it started. This is just a little metal piece that comes with the mold. If you want to make a reinforced mold, which I will also make a video on later, it is possible to do with this piece of metal. I will do another video on that, but we're just going to do a quick mold right now, just so you can see the process. So I got my piece of corrugated plastic. Now the part we're drawing on will be the outside of our mold. So it really doesn't matter what you draw on it with. It doesn't matter if I leave that sticker on there, which right now I'm going to. But what we are going to do is we are going to do the outside of our mold. The inside, I don't know why this piece of corrugated plastic came so dirty. Probably because it was in Home Depot. I don't know why though, it was in plastic. So it is what it is. It is what it is. Corrugated plastic wipes up really easily. So just wipe it down. It'll be fine. You're gonna line it anyway. So this is our piece of corrugated plastic. The first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna measure out the side wall of my mold, which would be this wall right here. Now I've lined this one, which I will also show you how to do at the end of the video. A quick and easy way to line this, I'm going to give it to you. But I am doing this side wall right here, okay? So that's what we're working on now. Now for this soap, I'm going to have my side wall be 3 inches tall. So I'm going to measure, and I'm going to do a mold out of this whole piece of corrugated plastic so you can see how the whole thing folds together without me having to really cut too much. But the first thing I am going to do is I am going to measure 3 inches for my side mold. Now I'm making something very specific with this mold, so your measurements may be different. You can make it 4 inches, you can make it 27 inches if you want. Useless soap mold, but if you need a shallow soap mold, make it 1 inch. Whatever you need to make, just make your side walls as tall as you need them, and make sure you leave a little room for your soap so your soap doesn't have to reach the edge. So say if you wanted to make a soap that was 1.5 inches high, I would make your side of your mold 2 inches. But I am making mine 3 for a purpose. So I'm just going to take my ruler and mark off 3 inches all the way down, because I am going to take these little dots I'm making now and I am going to connect the dots. I'm going to connect the dots. Like I said, I'm going down the whole soap mold. You can do as little or as many dots as you want to. You just want to make sure that when you connect the dots, you're getting a straight line. Now this is handy for anybody who needs different size soap molds, or for people that do the soap challenges that don't necessarily want to go out and buy a mold specifically to the size that you need, such as this month we had to do one in a shallow, very shallow mold. I literally made a mold the same way that I'm doing here. I did it just with 1 inch side, and it worked beautifully. So you can really customize this to anything that you need. So we're just going to connect the dots, and you will see why we're connecting these dots in a moment. Okay, so this is our soap side. This is our side wall. So now we're going to do the inside of the cavity, the inside of the soap cavity. So I need the inside of the soap cavity to be 3.5 inches wide. So I'm just going to take my ruler, 3.5 inches, and I'm going to mark the 3.5 inch mark. Now, mind you, this is how wide my soap will be. Now this I'm making for a specific reason. So this is the measurement I came up with, but I could make this 4 inches wide, I can make it 2 inches wide. You can change your measurements to fit you. try to make sure your measurements are as close as possible. This is not something that must be perfect. I have made them imperfect. It is fine. They work just as well. Just try to get as close as you can. We're going to connect our dots again to form, let me do it this way, the inside of the soap mold. Now I'm going to try to connect the dots so that I'm getting on the outer portion of where I marked the dot. And I'm just connecting the dots. Simple as that. Whoop. Now I have the inside of my soap mold. Remember, the part that we're drawing on is the bottom, so me doing that didn't make a difference. Now we're going to do the outer wall of our soap mold, which has to be the same as this. We did this at 3 inches. So we are going to do this one at 3 inches. We are going to measure from this line up to 3 inches and just mark it off. Now I'm doing this relatively slow. When I make these molds myself, I can probably do one in like 3 minutes. I don't do as many lines as I'm showing you, I am not a perfectionist when it comes to things like this because guess what? We can always make it work. Again, we're going to connect the dots. This is what we have so far. So this is the outer side, the inside, the outer side. Now what we're going to do is we need these to be 3 inches too because we need the sides to the mold. So we're going to make these the same size as we made the outer side. So we're going to measure the 3 inches. And I'm just going to start at the top of this because I'm going to make this whole thing a soap mold. If I needed specific measurements, I would do 3 inches, measure how many bars I needed to fit, but this is a pretty decent size piece of corrugated plastic, so I can make a mold out of all of this. So we're going to measure the sides down from the sides, and we're just going to do 3 inches. Let's start there. Let me do it this way so you can see. Connect the dots. Do the same on the other side, 3 inches. Have you ever made a soap mold on your own? What have you made it out of? Comment below. I'd love to see them too. Any soap molds you've made, I'd love to see them below. Post them below, especially if you make silicone molds. I buy a lot of silicone molds. You guys have a lot of patience. So post your molds down below. So can you see the basis of where I'm going with this? So this part we don't need. We're just going to cut this off in a moment. But for now, we got to make where the bends are going to happen in the mold. To do this, very, very simple. We take our corner to corner, and we're just going to draw a line. Make sure your ruler stays straight. Corner to corner. Just like that. We're going to do that on all these corners. And then we're going to begin to cut. done. Can you see the soap mold taking shape? Can you see it? It's coming together. So we're done with this. We're gonna get our X-Acto knife and our ruler. First thing we're gonna do is cut off the piece that we don't need. We don't need this piece at all. And I am the type that I will make a mold out of this piece too, because I'll make individual cavity molds out of it so I can do like my tester batches and things like that. But what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put the ruler on the outer part of the black layer I just drew. I am going to cut all the way through this piece so that I can detach the piece that we don't need, because we only need these 3 sections. Okay, so I'm just gonna cut it through. This takes a while. Try to cut as straight as you can and stay in the cut you previously made. And we're just gonna keep cutting through until we get through to the bottom. I am doing this on my countertop. But if you are doing this on a wooden table, make sure you put down something below so that you don't cut your stuff up. Okay. I went a little out of this line, which is not really a big deal. Try to get yourself back on track. These are the sides, so I'm not particularly worried about the sides. Because I am going to fold. I don't want to rip through, so because it didn't cut all the way through, I'm just going to cut through with the knife very carefully. And just detach it. Already through where I cut. Let's go from this end. Get this little piece right here. There we go. And you see how I messed this up just a little bit on the line? That is really no big deal. That is the edge of your soap mold, but you can go over it and just even it out if you want. To tell you the truth, if this wasn't for YouTube, I would not be doing this. All right, so we've got our soap mold. Now from going forward, we are not going to cut all the way through like we did with this. I don't know if you can see this on camera. I hope you can. I'm going to put it in different ways. But corrugated plastic has layers to it. For this part, for the rest of the cutting, we are only going to cut through the first layer. The first layer only. Because we want it to bend. We don't want it to rip. Okay? So I am going to gently cut each line the same way I did before, but I'm going to do it gentler. And I am going to make sure I don't cut all the way through to the bottom. After a while, this becomes second nature to do. But you can see how now I can bend it, but the inside is still fully intact. Okay? And I'm going to do that around every single line here. So I'm probably going to speed this video up a little bit. Now as you cut down this edge, which is where the corrugated plastic actually stripes this way, I'm cutting against the grain. Can you hear this? This is a little bit harder to cut through. You're going to hear little notches as you cut. Be very, very careful, like I said before, not to go all the way through. Just want it to bend. Can you hear that? When you're going down the opposite ends, you may have to do more than one cut to get through that plastic, and that is fine. Just make sure you do not go all the way through. Find my hole, then line up my ruler to do the rest of the cut. Keep your hand out of the way of the blade, because I have cut myself with one of these. Oop, and I went off my line. See, no big deal. Go back to the point where we knew we were okay, and have another go at it. If we were meant to be perfect in life, but we are not. So, let's see. Might have to cut some more. No, just bent. Got it to bend. But see, the inside, still intact. Find my hole. Move in my ruler. Now we're going to cut down these lines. Not all the way through, the same way we did the last ones. Just halfway down. Just cutting corner to corner. Oop, went off my line, no big deal. Get back on track. Corrugated plastic is not hard to bend. If you need to just fix a few lines, just fix it. It's not hard to bend, it will snap. See, I didn't get all the way through to this corner. But we need that because we need that crisp corner for the soap. Ooh, this piece is giving me work. There we go. There, now we're through. This is what we got. Super easy, take some clips. Come all the way to the corners. You can even use duct tape at this point to tape it closed. You can trim off these ends if you want. They're not needed. But now you have a soap mold. Soap mold that anytime you need to store it behind a shelf, pop the clips off, lays flat. You can slip it behind something, slip it under something. But I'm going to show you a quick and easy way to line this. And today I'm using parchment paper so I don't waste my baking paper, because this is just an example. Now we got to go this way. I'm just going to basically measure my parchment out. It doesn't have to be perfect. I like to fold some of my paper over my edges. You don't have to if you don't want to, but I just pretty much measure it to the same measurement of the board. Maybe a little bit more if I want to tape my edges over so it doesn't get within the corrugated, like soap doesn't get stuck within the corrugated plastic, which is why I leave a little bit. But let me show you how easy this is. I am just going to cut off this piece of extra. I'm going to cut off this piece of extra that I do not need. And this part does not have to be perfect at all. Don't worry about it. If you cut it just a little bit too big, whatever, no big deal. Doesn't have to be cut even, none of that stuff. Okay? And I ripped this one a little off, so we are going to take this part and just trim it a little. You want some to fall over the edges? Whatever. I can't find my good scissors today, so we're working with what we got. Then I just take a little paper towel I dampened with water, and I rub it on the inside of the mold to make the paper stick. Stick my paper down. Make sure it's flat as I can possibly get it. Baking paper stays way flatter than parchment paper. Understand that. I use thicker, it's way thicker, and it lays down a lot better. But this is like in a pinch. You can always use parchment paper. So you just take it, where the paper bends, bend it, get your little creases. We're good. Stick the paper to the, and we're just going to bend the paper within the mold. Try to get it tucked in there so it's tight. You want it as tight as possible. That was not tight. I want to do it as tight as possible. And like I said, this works so much better with baking paper. And clip. You can do the same thing for here. I like to get my edges nice and crisp. Clip. Run my fingernails down the edges just to make sure that line is nice and crisp. Fold up. Place it in the edges. You see how I cut that a little bit wonky? Not a big deal. You can adjust it later. I'm doing this quick for YouTube. I will cut off these extra pieces, get them out of the way, but I'm gonna clip. But this is the easiest way to line a mold like this. You can do it with saran wrap. And then I usually, because I have the extra, but like I said, my baking paper is thicker. I have the extra, I tape this part over, and then it doesn't get into the corrugated plastic. But you get the point. This is just for an example so that you can make your own molds. You get the basic idea. Then I fold these over, tape them down, and this mold is protected forever. Lasts multiple times. You can use it a ton of times. You can make it in tons of different sizes. I've got really tiny ones. I've got really big ones. But this is something everybody can do at home. I've got them in all sizes. Simple. Easy to make. What did that take me, 10 minutes? It took me longer because I was on here trying to explain it to you. Honestly, half the time, I don't even draw on my mold. I just measure out the amounts where I need to actually cut and just do a... I did too much in this video. But whatever. It is what it is. Now you can make your own corrugated mold. I mean, your paper will be cut a little bit better than mine is, I'm sure. And like I said, baking paper is easy. You can use saran wrap. You can use a trash bag. I've seen people use trash bags to line their molds. Simple and easy to do. Simple and easy to make. Like I said, I've got this other one. I actually took the clamps off of this one to use on that one. But you see the whole concept. Really simple to make. And you can make them in any size. Any size you need, you can make them in. Any size. $2 for the corrugated plastic. $1 for these little clips. Why wouldn't you try it? Just my little tip of the day for you. I hope it helps somebody. And if it does help you, please let me know down below. If you make one, post a picture down below. We all want to see how you did on your first try. Because my first try did not look like this. I'm not even gonna lie. My first try, my second try, but my third try I had it down pat. I've been making molds like... This costs $2. What will we pay for a mold this size? And in this, I can get, let's just measure. 12 1-ounce bars. From a little sign. I can make little molds out of these for when I need to do a tester batch, or if I want to do a color batch. I can make this into like 4 different molds. $2. So I got that mold and 4 different little tiny molds to do samples in or testers in. You can't go wrong with this technique. And it helps. Never hurts to have extra molds. I use these all the time when I make olive oil soap, because we all know that olive oil has to sit there forever in the mold. I never have to remove it from the mold, and I never have to worry about the bars getting damaged the entire time they cure, because I just leave them in there. That's it. I don't have to worry about unmolding them. I'm not going to cut them for a while anyway. Great idea. If this video helped you, please give me a thumbs up, a like, subscribe to the channel. I do stuff like this all the time. If I can DIY it, I will. I pay a fortune for most of my molds. We all do. A fortune. But every now and then, isn't it nice to save some money? I hope you enjoyed this video. Have a good one.